Bloggo's POW.
So joining me today is Dudley from Yesterzine. Hello, Dudley.
Hello, I'm here for the 40th anniversary Master System party. When's it begin?
Last week.
Bugger. Alright, what irrelevant bullshit do you have this week for me to be part of?
Well, I thought we'd follow up on our Saturn racing games by doing Dreamcast racing games. So I've picked a few which I think you'll be familiar with, and we will go from there.
It's highly likely. What a lucky week for me to have wandered in the door.
Well, first off, I'm going in, I think, roughly chronological order. So we're starting off with Sega Rally 2, which I know from a UK perspective it was the same day as MSR, but it was a Japanese launch, so that gives it literally a head start.
And one of the games that they decided would run better under Windows.
Yes. Now, my first impressions of going back and playing this, I mean, I had an import Dreamcast back in the day. I think it was like May or June of '99, and my initial reaction was like, wow, this is amazing, this is incredible, this is like the next level. Looking at it now in the cold, harsh light of today, it's very PlayStation 1. It's not as next gen as I remember it being, at least from a graphical standpoint, at least watching the attract mode.
No, it's a little bit jerky. It's a bit weird. It's like, if you actually play it, especially after some of these other titles, you can just feel it jerking. It doesn't actually appear to be an iffy frame rate. It's definitely above the 30 the Saturn version does, but it feels jerkier somehow.
Yes, it does. You can definitely feel there's some sort of disconnect there. And that was what goes on to one of my major criticisms of it, and I'm not sure if it's as a result of this jerkiness, but as a result, it doesn't feel as good as the Saturn game.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have drifting, despite the fact that they've got analog controls in this, which they didn't have for most people in the Saturn one. It doesn't feel like you can control it as well. Like,
no.
Aren't going where you want them to go.
Yes, there is a weird sort of disconnect there. I mean, I really dig the detail that is on display here with all things like, well, there's helicopters. Helicopter! And things like ostriches running across the road and all sorts of other things, people jumping out the way at the last minute to catch a cheeky photo of the car driving past. It is all very nice but yeah.
Yeah, in a static shot or a well-chosen video, it looks like the upgrade you'd have wanted purely graphically. It's what you would expect from Dreamcast over Saturn, and indeed pretty much over the original arcade, except it's got sort of a smoother look, so almost at times it feels a bit, maybe it's to me, that lower resolution, because there's a lot of smooth textures going on, whereas the Saturn's sort of pixely detail almost looks high res because there's more detail. Is that making any sense? And
also something to the colour as well, it's very washed out. The colour palette here is very muted.
Yeah, like playing it, I'm just like, I think this is wrong. It's fine, but Sega Rally should not be fine. It's like they gave the original to tier text to do the upgrade. It's like, technically the game is here and it's competent, but it's worse in every way than the source material they were handed. And I think this is probably why I've played it very little over the past quarter century, is there is no situation in which I wouldn't rather just bust out the Saturn and play the Pro.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I've not been back to this in a number of years, and the Saturn version still gets regular playtime, so...
yeah, you just wouldn't want to. I mean, I believe I own it, but the fact that I would actually have to turn my head and check is probably pretty damning, whereas I know damn well where my copy of Sega...
Right, yeah, absolutely. And the only reason I know I own it is because I didn't get rid of any of my Japanese Saturn games from back when Japanese Dreamcast games back when I got my Dreamcast. So there's a couple of things I like to point out, which I think you probably would have appreciated more than me back in the time. But things like when you start the desert stage, it's got the spare tyre on the back of the car and the snorkel, which doesn't appear in some of the other stages, which I imagine you being a racing man would
it's
appreciate.
The big sandy, wadey through watery rallies.
Yes, so
You beef the shit up.
but even just for a layperson, it's like, oh look, it's got a snorkel. Oh look, it's got the spare tyre. And then oh look, it hasn't got those things when you're sort of like barreling through the snowy wastes of, I presume, Finland.
This is my business snorkel, and that would be the episode title right there. But yes, yeah, and you'd get that in the desert. You wouldn't get that in probably Sweden's, Finland. Yeah, Scandinavian snow rally. Where's it go from there? Mountain.
Yes.
So France. Yeah, it's. This is the thing. About half of it is Sega doing the sequel you wanted and improving everything like you wanted, and half of them is them tripping over the second hurdle and taking their teeth out.
Yes. Yes.
And it's the result is kind of, sadly, that it's just so disappointing. Like, it's not bad. It is absolutely not bad. But it's almost aggressively not bad.
Yes. Yes. This is trying too hard to be not bad.
Yeah. And that's actually probably did not help the Dreamcast, especially in Japan, because Sega Rally is still new enough to be like the big attraction before you get the likes of later games we're going to talk about onto the system. Like, this was probably the latest Sega arcade game that you could get in the home at the time, and thus a lot of people are going to want to play this, and it's going to be on a lot of demo kiosks, and everyone's just going to walk out of it going, meh.
And it's only 4 years between the Sega Rallies on home releases, which is incredible when you think about it. And it just doesn't quite do it. One thing I had forgotten about when revisiting this is the car roster's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's got that 10-year challenge mode, like the career mode, which goes across 10 seasons. I presume the idea is you were still going to be playing in 2009 and playing one season per year, I suppose.
I doubt anyone quite cosplays it like that, but I love that idea. I did consider when I was like 15, wondering if I should start a game of Championship Manager 93 and play it exactly like that, like play a game week a week. I never did, and probably that's good, because I would currently be 32 seasons in.
To actually turn into a career.
But this is what I mean about in half the ways it's the sequel you want, because obviously I probably don't need to explain even to the layperson. The two cars in Sega Rally are from broadly the same time, and then they've expanded that to give you, a couple more eras and a bit of variety for the other cars that were racing. This is exactly what I want my Sega Rally sequel to be. Unfortunately, I want it to also drive and move like Sega Rally.
Yes, definitely so. I mean, unfortunately, that by the time, if you're going to compare when this came out to when Sega Rally came out, when Sega Rally came out, you were in a post-Ridge Racer but pre-Gran Turismo time. Now, by this point, there's a lot of people out there that have played Gran Turismo on PlayStation that have certain expectations of a racing game. Arcade racers, sadly, were on their way out. When I say arcade racers, I mean checkpoint-based coin-ops. People were looking for something
like Wipeout, right?
Yes.
With 2 Wipeouts in at this point as well.
Yeah, two Wipeouts in, and you were looking for something with, well, it had, like I say, with the 10-year career mode, it had its sort of stab at something with a bit more depth to it. But yeah, I don't think it was enough at the time.
I know it didn't convince me, and while you were talking, I looked around. I actually don't own it. Decided to get myself an original of that at any point. And I will say I own everything else we're about to talk about, so...
Well, the next time you find yourself in CX and see a copy of Sega Rally, consider buying it for at least a second or two.
I am going to, in the background, find out how much they're actually selling that for.
I'm going to say probably around about £12.
I just typed Sally Rally.
That's a different one. Isn't that what your mum's game's called?
Well, that saves me a bit. It's 12 quid. In honesty, at that I probably would. Equally, if you spent £4 and got the PlayStation 3 version of Sega Rally, you're actually getting something better.
Yes.
The previously named Sega Rally Revo is worked on by a lot of what is now the Forza Horizon team.
It's funny how these sort of Sega-based racing games go on to appear on Dreamcast, on Xbox, should I say?
Yeah. About that.
Yes, in fact, but that bridges us nicely into the next game, which of course is Bizarre Creations' Metropolis Street Racer, which highly ambitious game at the time. There was a lot of things when I went back to play this that I'd forgotten about. Things like the night and day cycle locked to the Dreamcast's internal clock, the kudos points, which of course become a massive part of PGR, and also, again, this is really unfair. It doesn't look as good as I remember it looking.
I think that's because when it came out, it's kind of doing a first thing. Metropolis did pretty good real-world capture maps of at least parts of San Francisco, Tokyo, London. And for us especially, this is the first time you've seen London in anything like this.
Absolutely, yeah.
The only time I think proper recognisable real London streets had really appeared before this is probably The Getaway. And even then, it's a bit of a... or even, is that art?
The Getaway was 2002, I'm going to say.
So, yeah, there's no one's done recognisable London streets. And even now, it's a recognisable Westminster, and I think it goes past Piccadilly Circus in some maps, and all that kind of thing. And looking back, that's what you remember, because you remember this is the first time you drove London, and your brain remembers London, not what it looked like.
Yes.
They then made 4 games that used London.
Yes.
Cities.
This is where I started getting things a little bit mixed up, because MSR sort of in my brain seeks into the first Project Gotham in terms of content and style and everything, and in my head I can't really tell them apart.
And those who don't know have probably twigged that this is effectively Project Gotham Racing Zero by the same people, but published by Sega, so that they needed to change the name when they started doing the Xbox ones. Yes,
it was Sega were going to... what was it I read they were going to do? They were going to do something else with the MSR sort of name, even when Bizarre Creations stepped away from it, but of course nothing actually happened, because at that point Sega moved out of hardware production, and I think that it was very much...
Yeah, it got a bit unlucky. It was the tail end of 2000 in the UK, and then it was even later in the US, and Sega stopped making the Dreamcast somewhere around then, and the last UK software releases are not that far down the track from there.
No.
It kind of didn't get the kind of tail that they were probably hoping a racing game that had online racing would get, because this was the kind of thing that if it had caught on as an online thing and it was begging for a racing game to do that online, because there wasn't an online Gran Turismo till 4, possibly even 5 properly, that this could have done it. But unfortunately, there was by that point just no interest in the Dreamcast. Going back to it, I noticed there are several things that Project Gotham really did improve on. You mentioned the kudos system, which was obviously a system for giving you points for style, but especially in races, it's really unforgiving. Scratch you for anything. It'll scratch you if someone drives up the back of you.
Yeah.
And as you go through the Project Gothams, they make it more and more forgiving, and I think because they realise it's way too easy to cost yourself kudos in MSR, and given kudos is also how you unlock racing.
It can completely undo your progression as a result.
you have one back marker turn in on you on lap 4 of a race, and you're doing that race again because you won't quite get the points that you needed, and you only keep the best result from a race, I believe.
Yes. I mean, also the UI is very, I found them very unfriendly. I mean, little things like when you finish a race or start playing a replay, you've actually got to press start and then quit to come out of the replay, which I found hugely annoying.
Really wants you to watch your replay.
Yes. And that also brings me on to, if you have a shitty run, you want to quit out and start again. There's no quick restart. You've got to go back to the screen, lose your kudos.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it, keeping your last run. If you quit, you get pinged for abandoning it and get -50.
Exactly, yeah.
So even if you've got a previous run, I think it scratches it.
Very unforgiving.
I remember testing that.
And
it is. And same with the time of day system.
I was about to say.
Dreamcast internal clock, which is really smart. The problem here is that it was released in November in Europe.
Yes.
So Japan's still in the Northern Hemisphere. San Francisco certainly is. So San Francisco isn't going to be light unless you're playing it only in the evening. Japan is perma-dark in the waking hours of most European. And Europe is the main market for a European-produced driving game. So I basically never played the Japan maps. And because it doesn't change the difficulty based on the time of day, it means that you're effectively playing a much harder game in Tokyo than you are in London, and I'm sure for anyone who bought this in Tokyo, vice versa.
Strangely enough, when I was recording my footage, I was recording it like in the evening, and my London was perpetually at night time, and it's a lot harder to judge the corners in London when it's dark, because the headlights don't appear to work.
No, not very well. And neither do the streetlights. London, you basically don't need headlights in reality.
No, you don't.
So yeah, that's something they, of course, dropped in the sequels and sort of assigned time of days to races, and then, of course, can tune the difficulty. So with all of the subsequent 4, and to my knowledge, every game ever, no one has attempted to sync to an internal clock for round-the-world racing because, yeah, the problems.
Yes.
The progression system is actually quite interesting, but quite slow, I think, if you're a modern gamer. For me at the time, I was a student. I had a lot of time, and I spent epic amounts of time in MSR on the Dreamcast I bought in somewhere mid-2000. But I think you have to do 10 races before you even unlock a car, and of course you start in like the slower.
Yeah.
That's quite a long way to go, and I'm suspecting that if you started from a new save, your footage is entirely from those first 10 races.
Yes, it definitely is. I did quickly go to custom race and do a couple of races with the likes of a Skyline and something else, and very quickly came undone because my skills on racing games. My skill level wasn't anywhere near there.
It's okay.
Yet.
I understand that you're between these games going to cut in some footage of me driving perfectly, so that...
Yes, absolutely. Look, there you go now.
Exactly. But it does mean that for the people trying it who might have been sort of looking for an arcade racer because there was a little bit of a drought of them, I guess, given that Sega Rally 2 had been disappointing, the people looking for an arcade one are going to find themselves stuck in those cars. Which actually reminds me of something I should flag to people on this as an aside. Keep an eye out for, and/or Google, Gran Turismo 2 Beige Edition. Gran Turismo 2 with only slow normal cars and turning that into a game. And I think it's going to be very, very funny.
That sounds absolutely excellent. One thing that I did get from, and I remembered back from when this was released, is it was either in CRN or CTW, the trade paper for the video gaming industry at the time, that at the beginning of MSR there's a quick bit of FMV of one of those Daft Vauxhall VX, what's it called? Is it VX 2000?
It's 220.
220.
Notice, Elise, and address.
Yeah.
But it's the one on the cover of the game.
That was actually belonged to, I'm going to say, Bruno Brunelli, one of the directors of...
the Ubisoft guy.
Yeah, he was one of the directors at the time at Sega, I believe. And also Katsu Saito from Sega Japan apparently had a couple of those and were driving them being silly around Piccadilly Circus and central London to get that FMV stuff for the intro, and then ended up in getting their collars felt by the law.
Yeah, because I'm impressed you have the space to do that in Piccadilly Circus. Maybe it was different a quarter century ago, but
I think it probably was.
Piccadilly Circus, when I go there.
So yes, I don't think that the local constabulary were best amused by their tomfoolery and their little budget sports cars.
I do like MSR, but the problem is if anyone is turning into the show for consumer advice, God help you. But secondly, play PGR2. And I have reasons for this. But you just wouldn't play this when PGR2 is available, which I think is the height of that series. Because after that, it's PGR3 had an ethos where they didn't include any cars under 170 miles an hour and created the opposite problem. There isn't really a game progression in it. We actually saw a really cool thing in PGR2 as a multiplayer thing that you couldn't really do until GT and Forza added car classes properly, in that we did the first race in the slowest class of car in the game. Whoever finishes last moves up a class.
Oh, okay.
Doing that. So no matter how bad you are, 3 races in, you've got a chance. And then the very best people in this group are desperately trying to get as many races in this, broken Fiat Uno. and while, their mates are now in Lotuses and BMWs, until they finally don't have the skill to beat anyone, and then they move up and it starts again. It's a really...
That's really clever.
Kind of thing up.
That's really clever.
It's like rubber banding, but it isn't.
Yes.
It's still entirely fair.
Yes. Talking of which, I thought the rubber banding was ridiculous in MSR.
Yeah, I didn't remember that, and I now don't remember because I haven't had a chance to go check if any of the PGRs are that bad. But yeah, it isn't, and you end up lapping people and they drive into you and cost all your kudos.
Well, that too. But the one-on-one races, you just need to take. If they take one corner bad, he comes zooming past you, even though you've had the best race of your life, and somehow he's managed to stay right on your back bumper. It's really, really annoying.
I detest rubber banding at the best of times.
Well, totally.
Game that is, I think it'd be fair to say, simcade presenting. He says try to offend as few people as possible by categorising sim arcade and simcade, because that's how you start fights on the internet. But, it presents itself as not being a Sega Rally. It presents itself as being a vaguely rooted in some sort of objective reality game. And rubber banding's for Mario Kart.
Yes. Games where it's not welcome. In fact, that's all of them. I mean, you mentioned about going into Simland. Well, let's move along a tad, and the next game we're looking at is probably as sim as it gets on the Dreamcast, and that's Ferrari F355.
Yes, that would be fair. And I don't know if you have footage of the intro or if I'm just about to cause you to go get some, but I described it as a very Gran Turismo-ian intro.
It's very, yes.
So appears to take place entirely up its own arse.
You could almost hear the moon over the castle playing.
Yes, exactly. Like the factory pan and and stuff like that, and the fancy shot of the car from slightly too close to be of any use as a shot of a car, and the music is not legally distinct Moon Over the Castle, but they're going for the...
They're definitely going for that, yeah, and then it kicks in with the guitar and the drum beat, and yeah.
Yeah, all the same. Did the arcade come out after GT? I think it did.
I really don't know. I wanted to try and track down my... when I played it in the arcades, it was the big 3-screen monitor one, which would give you a printout of your telemetry on a little piece of paper. And I was trying to look for that piece of paper for tonight, but couldn't find it. And I'm sure that would have had a date on it, but...
Picture of a middle finger when you played it.
Pretty much.
Just, I don't know how you do screaming in telemetry, possibly just like a waveform.
Yes. I mean, the main problem is when I played the arcade game, I played Monza. I didn't play Fuji.
Yes. You played Italian Suzuka.
I played Italian Suzuka, but not Fuji. Fuji short, as I would normally play.
sorry, non-racing people, but Monza is surprisingly tricky because most of it is ridiculously quick, but they added chicanes over the years to slow people down because of all the deaths. But that does mean you have to go from top speed to no speed quite a few times when you're not paying attention and or looking at the other cars.
This is why my telemetry slip was actually on fire.
Exactly. I mean, you could cut in footage here of me showing you how to do it.
There we go.
I have a semi-long discussion of the physics in Ferrari, so do you want to have some other observations first before I bore it?
Well, all I would say before you go into that is, because I have played this a lot, and even though I'm completely sandy drinking and using all the driving assists, I slipped into it quite nicely. Joke there. No, it felt good. I could. The corners were manageable. I knew when to do brakes and accelerate out of the curves. Yeah, it's something which I really sort of hadn't written. I had a muscle memory too.
Yeah, and if you select Shandy mode, it does do a pretty good job of making itself accessible. It even lectures you if you try to choose non-Shandy mode.
Yes.
We recommend beginner mode for beginners. Yes, thank you. I do know what I'm doing here. Especially as this is one of these last two games I managed to play on a wheel, which does make a difference for obviously any sim physics game, because if you play this on a joypad, you are going to find yourself sort of overcorrecting fairly constantly. Because unlike the Forzas and GTs of this world, it doesn't cheat as much. A GT or a Forza, when you play with the pad, cheats. It applies smoothing. It does a bit of, I think you really meant to press this much left, just to make it even doable at all, because if you tried to drive a real car with a pad for 2 seconds, you would be dead.
This is where I've been going wrong.
I will also say, if you play this, you don't bother with the oval. They put it first, and it looks like an oval should be easy. Motegi isn't. It's quite an awkward oval, and oval driving is a lot more technical than you'd think. But also, the AI is mysteriously really quite a lot faster, I would say, than it is on Suzuka. Or maybe it's just because oval driving is technical. It's much harder than it actually looks, and in this game, the oval is harder, I think, than most of the actual tracks.
Interesting.
At least for me. Less so in the wheel, of course. Because, of course, oval, long, constant radius turns, well, that's death on a joypad for a start. Slightly easier on the wheel, but I'm very easily able to get second at Suzuka East. Let's assume I'm right. I don't think I can do that on the oval. It is sim physics. Clearly underpinning it is some sim physics, but it's quite understeery. And it's sliding around and 3 people will understand this point, it's exaggerating the weight transfer. It's possibly you perceive that as being a bit lagged to your inputs, and I think it's doing that to give the impression of being more sim than it actually is.
Yes, I think it very much is that game. It was very much a hey, look, we can sim as well, sort of thing. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about comparisons with the first Gran Turismo. If the arcade game, I believe the original arcade game was on Naomi board, which would put it out as a release after Gran Turismo. I was thinking about it.
Yeah. That would make sense. And I suspect, I mean, while they were obviously developing it before they saw GT, which I think was the tail end of 97 in Japan, May 98 here, they would have seen GT and they'd been able to change things. And obviously being a single car game, they can put more effort into any individual physics.
Yes.
Kind of not even simcade, I would describe it. I would almost describe it as an arcade game preferer's perception of what sim is. Which is weirdly perfect for what they were trying to achieve.
Yes.
So excellent work, Sega. It's just not quite... Yeah, if someone now comes to it expecting a sim, they're not going to get what they think. If they come to it expecting Sega do something with some relevance to the real world but still fundamentally a Sega game, then they'll probably really like it, especially if you start with the simple version of Suzuka rather than trying to do that oval. which I think they shouldn't have included. In all honesty, there is another oval later.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, one thing I'd forgotten is that as you play the game, it will unlock extra tracks, and we unlocked the Atlanta course through the course of my playthrough,
which is a much more traditional NASCAR oval.
Yes.
You don't need to care about that.
No.
The championship mode's quite nice, actually. I think they added that to the home version, at least I assume they did. That's actually pretty good, and doesn't do the arcade game of stopping you if you don't get a certain position. You are absolutely entitled to finish last in each race, although each race, I think, still has a... No, it doesn't, actually. I don't think even each race has a timer, which is quite nice, because that also gives you a way to practice without it beeping at you before you get to the first turn, because, yeah, your telemetry sheet's on fire.
I think I got thrown out of the arcade for that, actually.
Yeah, they probably frown on that.
They don't like me in London. I was in a London arcade. They don't like me in London arcades. I must have told you the story of when I went and got stuck in one of those R360 G-Loc machines.
What, you were just hanging upside down?
Yeah. Well, not quite an hour and a half, but what happened is I was playing the game and it stalled. The game was still running. I could still control the fighter, but the actual gyroscopic thing I was upside down. Yeah. So the arcade operator obviously looked quite pale for a little while and came across and pokes things, and it still wasn't doing anything. So we turned it off. And then he turned it on again, and surely enough, when you turn it back on, it rights itself. Well, what it doesn't do at that point is let anybody go. What it does instead, it does a complete 360 times 10 warm-up of all the hydraulics. With me inside. Yeah, so yeah, I never had particularly good luck in London arcades.
There are people who pay for that, right?
I know, and that's the thing nowadays. If you want to go anywhere near that, you need to go to Muddyfield in Ireland and do some serious arcade game necromancy too.
No one will ever figure out how that got there.
It
did.
Really bizarre.
Obviously notoriously unreliable and notoriously expensive to run and fix. I'm not surprised someone eventually just went for the Muddyfield in Ireland disposal method.
Yes.
What at the time was a absurdly expensive thing.
Oh god, yes.
It was like required an operator.
Yes. So the last game we picked up is a return again to the beginning. So this is Daytona for the Dreamcast. Was this official title Daytona 2001? I can never remember.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's officially called that, but it's kind of affectionately known as Daytona 2001 as to abstract it from the rest of the series. And the one thing I noticed immediately is this was published by Hasbro, I want to say?
Yes, Hasbro had a hand in this somehow.
Yeah, it's never good when you outsource your primary arcade game to a third party.
See, I was...
Our Virtua Racing by Time Warner is an exception to this, because that is a fine game. But, you know, if they care about Daytona, what the hell's Hasbro?
You see, I'm not entirely sure Hasbro was a developer element of it. I thought Hasbro had something to do with the Daytona license and had to have their name attached to it for that reason.
Now, that's not impossible by 2001, is it? Would they...
Because this is, it says this is by Amusement Vision, which of course was one of the Sega AMs, or at least an evolution of the AMs. But yeah, I thought the Daytona trademark Hasbro had something to do with that.
That is entirely possible, or at least the NASCAR one.
Yes, and of course...
are separate.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's absolutely possible. And again, this looks fine. Like, it's better than either Saturn version in look.
Yes, absolutely. It looks... okay, a late-stage Dreamcast game. It looks very shiny. It almost looks Model 3 in some ways. Not quite. It is proof positive that they could have done Scud Race on the Dreamcast at some point. Quite well.
We never got to see that. One huge mistake it does make immediately, and I don't know if you spotted this. If you do the 3-7 Speedway, the oval in Daytona, the arcade is 8 laps and 40 cars. By default,
yes,
4 laps and 20 cars, and that's not the point. You can change it very easily in the menus.
Yeah.
By default, wrong.
Yes, definitely wrong. Yeah, that's one thing I noticed as well. It was like the again, I'm going to whinge about user interfaces here. The user interface on this is really unwieldy. Press the button, left and right to select a car, press the button to go back, left and right to select a track, blah blah blah. They're taking away the arcade simplicity of it, which was really annoying.
I mean, just forcing you to mess with it to get the right number of laps in cars is already fundamentally a stupid thing for an arcade game to do. Especially as, again, presumably they wanted this in stores attracting people to the Dreamcast, because Daytona USA 2 had been released in arcades, which is probably why they put 2001 on the cover. And then anyone messing with it in a store is only going to get the 4 laps 20 cars thing. The other problem is, and we might as well get to it, if you're doing it in a store, you're using a controller, and for me, on a controller, this just does not work.
Yep.
Worse than CCE, probably.
Yes, absolutely. It feels slidey at the wrong bits, and then when you actually want to slide, it seems to just snap the car into position very rigidly and not go in the direction you're expecting it to go.
Yeah, and again, I've only actually recently tried the oval on this, which is obviously going to be the most susceptible to control issues. But yeah, it's the same as the Sega Rally problem. In that instance, I'd just rather go back and play the original Saturn one, pop in hell though it is. Or, of course, what you actually do if you can get a hold of it is the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, still backwards compatible, at least in the case of Xbox, I think, version is perfect.
Absolutely, yes.
Everyone goes for that. Although, I did get a tip from... Oh, God, I wish I remembered. Thank you, anonymous people. When I mentioned this to a couple of people, they said, try a wheel. And so this is why I'd actually played F355 on a wheel. I stuck Dream onto my sim racing PC, because I'm that kind of a nerd, and I found it up. On a wheel, this is really bloody good.
Oh.
On a modern PC wheel. Like, it actually perfectly works. It's possibly the best Daytona I've played in that circumstance. And I wonder if they just didn't tune the controls properly.
It's possible.
The one thing apparently to watch, though, and this is a problem I didn't have on my modern wheel, the Dreamcast wheel apparently has a gigantic dead zone in the middle, as in you turn it into about 15-20 degrees and it doesn't bother changing the input. And then it starts working. Probably the same as you would have on a joypad stick, because obviously you get stick drift and can mess with those, so they build dead zone into those. So it may not be something you can do with a Dreamcast wheel and appreciate.
Well,
if you've got the PC set up, do it.
Well, that's quite fortunate. I was sort of half considering dredging my Dreamcast wheel out of the loft, and I'm quite glad I didn't bother now.
If you'd had it handy, I'd say try it and prove it. But this is all what I was told, because I also do not own a Dreamcast wheel. I own a Dreamcast keyboard, but I don't think that's going to help us here.
No, this is not typing of the blue skies, is it?
Typing of the dead was such a good idea. If anyone's taking anything from this video, take that one thing. Typing of the dead is bloody great. But yeah, on a sim racing setup, this is actually it is perfect. It's like an arcade game. Like, you can throw it into the ovals properly if you mess with the settings a bit, and if you own a PC wheel, you know how to mess with the bloody settings. More so, I think, because I've also got that working recently, than the arcade version does. Probably because MAME isn't super happy about controls in general, whereas I think it's called Dream On, the prevailing Dreamcast MU of choice, actually is perfectly fine with it. So great. So I appreciated it a lot more for playing it for this video, because up until now I just thought it was the shit version of Daytona, and on a pad it kind of is, unfortunately.
Yes. Well, one thing I'd forgotten about this was there's actually a lot of extra tracks on this.
Yes.
So more so than obviously you've got the basic 3. You've got 2 extras, and then you've got are they detected the extras from CE? I can't remember. But you've got
it's the 3 originals, the 2 from CE, and then 2 or 3.
Yeah, there's a few there. Yeah, it's surprising how many there were. It was quite.
You can do them all in like mirror and reverse.
Yes.
Mirror and reverse.
Yes, you can. Yes, so you can select that from the get-go on the rather fudged options screen as you start your race. But and a lot of cars as well. Not just the Hornet. There's some other cars, which apparently some are more drifty and spinny than others, but you find a massive difference between them.
Again, I don't think you're going to notice on a pad because you've got the degree of control to spot that.
I mean, it was something I was really looking forward to when it came out, and then by the time I got around to getting it, I was very much reached a point in my life where I've become a sensible homeowner and things like that. So I didn't spend my entire income on video games, so it wasn't something I put a lot of time into. So, and to be honest, I don't know what I put my time into at that point in video games, but
homeowner probably.
Being sensitive.
Check the release date. I was by a month still at university, so that explains a lot. But again, May 2001, the Dreamcast is, bless it, basically dead. It's right at the point I think they stopped making it, and then there's another year of sort of a drip feed of releases because people didn't stop developing stuff. But it's not going to have the impact they want. I don't know if it's got online. I don't think it does, but again, it's just not going to have the impact being released that late in the Dreamcast life, because by May 2001 outside this country, is the PS2 out by May 2001?
I think 2001. No, it was November 2001, I'm going to say.
Okay, so it's not quite out, but you'll have seen from Japan, you'll have seen possibly Wipeout Fusion, possibly Ridge Racer 5. You'll have seen that possibly some of the F1 games on one of the F1 games on PS2 would probably be getting chopped around by that point. And then you look at a 7-year-old arcade game not playing its best. It's just not the Hail Mary the DC needed by that.
No.
Anything could have saved it, but this certainly unfortunately couldn't. Especially if some idiot designs it for wheels that don't exist yet.
Oh, here we go. Cindric's gone, so too is Logano. Harrison Burton's in there. The joy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of Dreamcast racers out by this point. I think Le Mans was out, Vanishing Point. Yeah, because it was such a late release, so there was too much competition, like you say, for an arcade game which is 7-8 years old at this point, give or take.
Yeah, I think it's 94.
Yeah.
And he says, very quickly looking it up and pretending he knew this, Sega GT's out as well.
Yes, of course, and that almost got a shoe-in on this video, but I did play it on the channel not that long ago and didn't really have much to say about it. So
I probably should go back and play that because I'd be interested. I do have GT 2002 as well on Xbox, so maybe Xbox Driving Games is the sequel to that.
Maybe we should do that, yes.
Affiliated.
Sega affiliated Xbox also. On the Dreamcast 2, I mean Xbox.
I just noticed a note, and this might be the most damning thing about Sega in this era. The PC version of Sega GT was published by Activision Value.
Oh,
that's painful.
Not just Activision, but Activision Value. That's a bit like saying, it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Acclaimed musician, we're not going to put you on Spotify, we're going to put you on whatever the even more budget version of Spotify is, just so that, you know, it's going to really rub it in just how how much we don't value you.
We're only on the Amazon Prime Music free tier.
Yes.
Simply. I'm not sure what counts as a budget music release these days. We don't all the sites that used to do things like that. Maybe Beatport is as close as we.
I've never even heard of Beatport.
Beatport's dance music specific. Bandcamp, there you go.
Bandcamp, yes.
We'll put you on Bandcamp.
We'll put you on Bandcamp, and if you're lucky, we might upload the files to Kazaa. Right, so
which is far enough off topic to tell you that we just can't be bothered to play Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. We said when we're talking about I don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
I rarely do, my friend. I rarely do. Excellent.
That's a good enough place to draw this to a close. So thank you so much for joining me and talking absolute shit for the last half an hour or however much it is. Yes, so you at home, if you've got this far, thank you very much. What did you think of these Dreamcast racing games? Is there something we should have included, or is there something about one of these games that we've completely missed the mark? please comment below, let us know your thoughts, follow us on the normal socials, and
Subscribe or naff off.